The first rich man never touched a coin. No paycheck, no bank, no dollars. But when winter came, everyone had to come to him. So what did he own if he didn't own money? This is the story of how one ordinary man became impossible to bypass. Watch him climb 4 steps. First, he controls what survives the winter, then where it comes from, then what other people owe him, and finally, the rules that decide who owns anything at all. By the end, you'll notice something uncomfortable. He's still doing it today. For almost all of human history, he couldn't get rich at all. He could be stronger, faster, luckier, but everything he owned could rot, break, get eaten, or get stolen by next week. You can't build a fortune out of something that rots before winter. Then he found the first thing that waits. Grain, he stores it. Animals, he keeps them. Oil, cloth, hides, anything that lasts longer than hunger. For the first time, he has something other people need when their own supply runs out. He isn't rich because he has more today. He's rich because he still has something tomorrow. So picture the first hard winter. The neighbors' jars run empty, their children are hungry, and now there's exactly one door in the village worth knocking on. The man behind that door doesn't have to negotiate. Everyone standing outside it does. That's not ancient. That's just having runway. The person who can wait sets the price. The person who can't takes it. But a pile of food is also a target. To stay rich, he can't just own the pile. He has to own where the pile comes from. Here's how the pile becomes power. When his neighbors run short, he lends them grain. And when they can't pay it back, he takes the field. Now other people work the land. But it's his land. They grow the harvest. He takes a cut every season. Forever. And this wasn't one greedy neighbor. It was so common that Babylonian kings kept having to step in, declaring clean slates and wiping the farmers' debts because too many fields were sliding into too few hands. One man's bad harvest becoming another man's land wasn't a glitch. It was the engine. He runs the same move on the trade routes. He doesn't dig the metal or weave the cloth. He controls the road between the place that has too much and the place that's desperate for it. The worker gets paid once. The gatekeeper gets paid every time. And this really happened. Ancient Mesopotamia shipped out grain, textiles, and oils, and pulled in the things it didn't have: copper, silver, gold, timber, precious stone. The merchants who sat on those routes traded tin and cloth for gold and silver, over and over. You felt this without naming it. A driver thinks he works for his customers. Then the app quietly changes the fee, the map, the rules. That's not the driver's business, that's the gatekeeper's. But the more people depend on him, the more they start to argue about what they actually promised him. One man says, "I gave you 5 bags." The other says, "No, you gave me 3. One says, "You promised me the land." The other says, "I never said that." In a village, everyone remembers. Memory works. In a trading network, across months, across cities, across strangers, memory breaks. So the next kind of wealth isn't owning more. It's proving more. A memory can be denied, but a clay tablet can be stored. A seal can be recognized. A claim can be carried to another city, handed down to a son, shown to a judge. Writing doesn't make him rich. It makes his claim survive, without him standing in the room. And this isn't guesswork. The clay survived. In Kanesh, Assyrian merchants used cuneiform tablets and sealed envelopes to track loans, deals, disputes, letters to their partners. Thousands of them. Some are debt notes that spell out how the claim dies the moment the debt is paid. But a written record is still about something that already happened. Then he figures out something darker. He can own what hasn't happened yet. The harvest fails. His neighbor needs grain now, just to survive to spring. Our man has grain, so he lends it, but he doesn't ask for the same amount back. He asks for more. Grain later, plus interest. And here's the trap. If next year's harvest is bad too, the neighbor can't cover the interest, so it stacks onto what he already owes. One bad season becomes 2 seasons of debt. Then the debt grows faster than anything he can grow in the ground. He hands over this harvest, and he's already behind on the next one. Sometimes he ends up owing not just grain, but his labor, his land, his family. Wealth stopped being a pile of food. Wealth became a legal claim on someone else's future. Debt is someone else's tomorrow, written down as your asset. And this was already real nearly 4,000 years ago. Babylonian law set the interest you were allowed to charge, up to 1/3 on a loan of grain, 1/5 on silver. And it was harsh enough that the same law had to add a mercy rule. If a storm wiped out your crop, you owed no interest that year. And notice, silver, not coins. By this point, Silver worked as money, but you weighed it on a scale. Coins wouldn't exist for another 1,000 years. And here's the part that should stop you. The oldest writing we have isn't poetry or history, it's accounting. Lists of who has what and who owes whom. A farmer signs away part of next year's harvest. A modern person signs away part of next month's paycheck. The paper changed, the move didn't. But even a written debt is only worth something if someone forces people to honor it. First, he had grain, then land, then claims on the future. But there's a bigger question sitting on top of all of it. Who decides which claim is real? And for him, this is not a thought experiment. He has watched a king declare a clean slate. One decree from the palace and a room full of debt tablets turns back into worthless clay. His tablets. The same power that can erase his claims can also enforce them. So he makes the final climb toward the people who write the decrees. If his neighbor refuses to pay, our man can shout all he wants. But if the court recognizes the tablet, someone else shouts for him. If the palace protects the field, someone else stands guard. If the law honors a seal, his claim becomes stronger than anyone's memory. So the highest form of ancient wealth wasn't having the biggest pile. It was standing close to the people who decided whose pile counted. Because if you control enforcement, you don't need to win every single deal. You just shape the game, the deals happen inside. It's the same play when a company doesn't just sell inside a market, it helps write the market's rules. The referee and the player quietly becoming the same person. And now the answer is clear. He didn't need money first, he needed control first. So what did the first rich man actually own? Not money. First, he owned what survived hunger. Then, the place it came from. Then, promises about the future. And finally, he stood next to the rules that made those promises real. And that's why this feels so familiar. Clay tablets became databases. Palace law became terms of service. The tools changed. The pattern didn't. Money came later. Wealth started the moment one person became impossible to bypass. So next time someone looks rich, don't ask how much they have. Ask what everyone around them can't get around.